It's an unlikely setting for the final chapter of an international diplomatic crisis, but Darwin's waste dump holds an extraordinary secret beneath the surface.
A few years ago we had a couple of shipping containers turn up here that were required to be buried.
The shipping containers, similar to these ones, had arrived from the Royal Australian Air Force Base at Tyndall near Katherine.
We were alerted that they were aircraft in those containers.
Staff at the tip didn't know it at the time, but the Defence Department has now confirmed to the ABC that the aircraft inside those containers were two Russian-made military attack helicopters that controversially ended up at Tyndall more than 2 decades ago as part of what was known as the Sandline Affair, which made international headlines in 1997.
When did the Australian government learn that the Sandline mercenaries had actually arrived in Papua New Guinea?
A private UK military company called Sandline International had been contracted by the Papua New Guinea government to supply dozens of mercenaries and 2 Russian-made attack helicopters as part of a $36 million deal designed to quash a separatist uprising on Bougainville. But the plan never eventuated. The mercenaries were booted out of PNG, the country's Prime Minister was forced to resign, and the attack helicopters, which had been on their way to Port Moresby, were diverted mid-flight to Australia, where they languished at the Tyndall Air Base for years amid a dispute over their ownership. It took more than a decade before that dispute was resolved, and in 2011 the Darwin Aviation Museum received a tantalising offer to acquire the choppers.
Absolutely fascinating. I mean, where else in Australia can you go at that time? Could you go and see 2 notorious Russian attack helicopters up close? Some of the Russian ones actually had standalone missiles.
The attack helicopters would have been on show alongside other historic equipment, but by that stage they'd deteriorated significantly, and there was another major concern.
A lot of Russian aircraft had asbestos throughout their construct, and that was the case with these, so we just dropped it from there.
From machines of war to industrial waste, this is where the attack helicopters were eventually buried. The Defence Department says any hazardous materials, including asbestos wire insulation and explosives in the door jettison system, were either removed or rendered safe prior to the choppers being disposed of.
As a person who likes aviation, I'd love to dig them out and take them for a fly, but that's not going to happen. Look, it just adds some notoriety to the site, I suppose, and look, I'm sure it's going to become an urban legend over time.
An urban legend linked to a very real conflict. Jano Gibson, ABC News, Darwin.